Okay, Anthony. So continuing, you need to go and do a lot of cutting on this social context and tidy that up with some decent research to back it up. Okay, visual elements. Um, I think what you need to, yes, so both advertisements use a variety of visual elements to convey underlying attitudes and promote their respective brand. I think it's about making that emotional connection with their target audience in order to deepen the audience's awareness or connection with the aspect of the brand that they want them to be able to create that desire for. Um, So I think the main thing about the Benetton is it is using ethos. So it's appealing to this assumption that we all share the value that we want peace and unity in our world, or rather the target audience of slightly more ethically aware older teenagers and perhaps young 20s. Now, what you need to be doing in order to be addressing those assessment criteria of knowledge and understanding and analysis is just like the messenger essay, Anthony. You're showing your understanding of the ways that creators of texts use conventions and stylistic features to create an effect on the audience. So in this case, what you need to be doing is foregrounding that it is the copywriters or the designers or the creators or the advertisements or the brands who are using a range of visual elements. So here, where you say that places the majority of visual emphasis. So we're talking of the focus. Focuses the visual. This is the technical. Focuses the visual emphasis on the two models. Now, they're not depicted. They've been dressed. They are costumed in Islamic and Jewish traditional robes or traditional garments. So this immediately engages that we immediately understand that this is an Islamic or Arab and Jewish, and he's a Hasidic Jew. He's a Orthodox Jew. So you haven't said enough on this before you move on to the props of the globe and the body language. So you need to go back to this advertisement and you need to be saying that the creators of the advertisements have used two young teenage male models to represent two very different religions. And they have done this by using the costume that represents the traditional dress of the Orthodox Jew and the Islamic Arab. You need to just double check that. You can talk about the eye contact. The creators have used body language. So they've used eye contact of each of the models, looking directly at the consumer. And what's the effect of that? It's immediately engaging the audience with these two young males of probably a very different religion to the consumer. What about the facial expressions? What about the body language here? The fact that they're positioned looking very relaxed. The model on the right he's been positioned with his arm draped over the shoulder of the model representing the Jewish boy. The advertisers have used the prop of a small globe and positioned their hands, one on top, one underneath. Again, symbolizing, but also reinforcing the slogan of Benetton, which is United Colors of Benetton. And so it's clever way to reinforce this idea that Benetton is united colors of Benetton. You need to talk about the way that the foreground and background. So the background is white. Why? Why do you think the background is white? What is white symbolic of? A, it's a good background color, but B, it's symbolic of peace. Compare it to the background of the Nike. So both advertisers have used color and lighting cleverly or skillfully in order to enhance the core emotional connection of the brand with their target audience. So most noticeable is the contrast of very dark masculine power. This is sort of brooding, powerful colours here, in contrast, which is to highlight or connect with his physical power as an athlete. And I think you've alluded to stormy past, whereas this one, perhaps at a time when political tensions were at a height, and this idea of racial or religious hatred. Hang on, I've just spilt my tea. Okay, catastrophe avoided, I think. I've mopped up my tea. Good job it wasn't wine. So that's the kind of thing you need to be doing in your analysis of the visual elements. Go back to the Elements of Visual Language handout. Go back to the examples of advertisements, of annotated advertisements that was attached to it. Go back to the README document with examples of of language to analyze visual elements, to analyze media. So you need to go back and sort this out. Your structure is not logical. You need to be creating a sort of teal paragraph. Lots of editing errors. The black, clearly black drop. Now, the way that you've explained the effect on the audience is good, but you need to just be checking. Yeah. So when you say depicted, you're going to say who have been dressed in the costume of. Now you say nothing relates to the Benetton brand other than the text. Well, the whole thing relates to the Benetton brand. Otherwise, it's a completely rubbish ad. The whole idea of the advertisement is reinforcing the Benetton logo, which is the united colours of Benetton. So it is actually really clever. So you need to change and sort this bit out. So you have said that this reflects the united colours of Benetton. But again, what's the core idea here? They're trying to, they're not raising awareness, they're trying to appeal to an audience that wants peace and unity. So I'm saying we're peace and unity in the world. Now you're using a little bit of comparative language, but so when you say the medium long shot depicts, again, you need to be foregrounding the creators or the designers of the advertisement have used medium long shot. I don't know what medium long shot is. It's either medium mid shot or it's long shot. So this is mid shot because you can see him pretty much from the waist up in the context of his surroundings. They've used special effects because of look at the way they've used lighting and colour and how the light is used to highlight the silhouette of the clouds. But look at his biceps, Anthony. Look how they've used light to highlight this look of his. He's looking into the distance. He's not looking directly at us like these two boys. He's looking at some goal in the middle distance that we can only hope to imagine. And his muscles, his rippling muscles have been highlighted. And look at this white. That's reflected in the colour of the text that they've used. And I don't know what the effect this is on the font here, what they've done there, but I'm sure. I don't know what that is, whether it looks like it's marble. It's like, is this idea of him being, so strong that he's almost made of marble, but I might be wrong there. So moving on, I think you need to go back to your paragraph there, and you need to be using, hang on, I'm just going down. You need to be looking at your editing, because there's lots of mistakes here. Text fragment, it's not a text fragment, it's the slogan. Make sure you're using the technical language. It's not the reader, it's the audience or the viewer or the consumer or the target audience. So you need to be, you haven't mentioned celebrity endorsement. So examples, I've gone here. For both of these headings, you need to be using T to structure your report logically. So for example, both advertisements use color and lighting to reinforce their core message to the target audience. While ad one, blah, 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 uses dark, brooding colors and predominantly black in order to enhance its message or its connection or its symbolism of power and determination. In contrast, ad 2 has a predominantly white background with bright colors, symbolizing peace and reinforcing the idea of peace and unity. So you need to go back and be doing that with both of these sections. More technical language needed. So go back to that. We need color and lighting. You need to show your understanding of a celebrity endorsement and use of models. Body language. How does the body language of the two advertisements differ? It's very different. And why? Because the sort of emotional connection is very different. How have they used foreground and background? So you need to go and do a bit more work on that. Now, both advertisements display a minimalistic amount of text. Consequently, greater emphasis is placed on other respective visual elements. Can you hear how wordy that is? So what you're saying is both advertisements focus on visual impact using the minimal amount of text. But, again, silly editing. For example, however, the conjunction of both visual and literary techniques convey the theme. So you focus on the language features here, but they've chosen not to have any other text because perhaps the idea, the image, a picture paints 1,000 words. Perhaps anything other than United Colours of Benetton would have detracted from the power of the image and the emotional connection that makes with the audience. Now, although it uses a very small amount of text, so say here, although the copywriters have consciously chosen not to detract from the visual impact of the advertisement by using minimal text, and you say the brand name. So this bit gets confusing because are you talking about Benetton or Nike here? I think it's Nike, but you haven't specified that. But when you talk about how the brand is not mentioned, show your understanding that the Nike swoosh, as we discussed in class, doesn't need. This shows how far advertising has come, that Nike doesn't have to actually put the name of the brand. The swoosh is Nike. So that's how clever Nike are, how sophisticated. Okay, so more work needed here, and on the language features, go back and see what kind of language is used. This leave nothing, it's command language. So a lot more to do.